Update: me, 25 female, my friend, 24 male, told my boyfriend, 25 male, we were having an affair, but we're not. Boyfriend doesn't believe me. Original post. I want to say to start off that I realize how messed up a situation this is, and I understand why my boyfriend would be so upset and even suspicious, but I can't believe that he doesn't trust me. Jeez, I wonder why. So I've been with my boyfriend Paul for 3 years. In the beginning of our relationship, Paul had some issues with trust. He had been cheated on in the past. I made it clear right away that I had never cheated on anyone, that I would not, and that I understood that if he had trust issues from the past, but that it was a deal breaker to me to be with someone who couldn't trust me. He has, since those early days, been really good about it, and throughout our 3 years together, I think that I've earned his trust. I've always been honest with him and never cheated on him. He asked to see conversations of mine that I've had with my male friends twice over those 3 years, and I've obliged. The second time, however, I made it clear to him that I was very unhappy to be treated as though I was acting suspiciously and did not deserve privacy with my friends when he had no reason at all to think that I was being shady. I said that if he didn't trust me because of something that I had said or done, I was 100% happy to have a conversation about that, to discuss it and to address any issues that he had. But if I had done literally nothing to cause suspicion, then I expected him to trust me. He agreed with me, said that I had done nothing, and never asked again. One of those conversations he asked about was with my friend Roger. Roger had 2 years before I started dating Paul confess feelings of love for me. I told him I wasn't interested, and that was that. By the time I was seeing Paul, I had absolutely no reason to think things were anything but platonic between Roger and myself. A week ago, Roger and I got together for coffee. Again, I want to stress that before this happened, I literally had no reason at all to think that he held on to those feelings. At the cafe, Roger suddenly went on this impassioned monologue about how much he still loved me, how Paul was a terrible boyfriend and I should dump him and be with Roger, how loyal Roger was, how perfect we were together, etc. I was pretty much silent through this whole speech because I was so surprised and uncomfortable. But when he stopped, I told him, probably not as strongly as I should have, but I didn't know what to do, that I loved Paul, that I was absolutely not leaving Paul, and that I needed to go home immediately. I was shaken up by the whole thing, so I took my time getting home to calm down. But by the time I got home, I found that Roger had sent a long, utterly insane Facebook message to Paul detailing how much he loved me and that we were destined to be together, and heavily implying but not outright stating that Roger and I had been carrying on an affair for weeks. I don't know why he did this. I have no explanation. Paul believes it completely. He has listened to my explanation of things but thinks I'm lying. He doesn't want to see me or talk to me at all anymore. I'm completely devastated that Paul would believe this Facebook message over me. I'm horrified that my relationship with him has ended like this. I'm embarrassed that I'm being seen as a cheater and a slut who slept around on Paul. I'm utterly hateful towards Roger. It's been a week and I can't convince Paul to talk to me. I know he had those trust issues in the past, but I really believed we were long since past them. What do I do? Additional information from OOP. OOP, when you told you can't be friends with someone after they tell you I love you? I definitely hear what you're saying, but I just want to point out I never believed feelings would magically evaporate. Roger said he loved me 5 years ago. We were distant from each other for about a year after he told me that he loved me, then reconnected through mutual friends and were friends for a year before I dated Paul. During that year, he acted totally platonically around me, and I guess I thought he had enough time to get over his feelings. He's been totally platonic as well for the 3 years that I've been with Paul. Obviously, I was wrong, and you were right about how I should have cut him out. But I didn't think the feelings would just disappear. I thought the year that we weren't really in contact had made them go away. However, Paul already has heard the whole and complete story, including what Roger said 5 years ago. He thinks I'm lying. However, when I say there is nothing between Roger and I now, should I still push the issue with Paul and try to make him talk to me? He's heard everything already, he just refuses to believe me. I think the truth will eventually come out. Now for the comments before reading the update. Deleted. This happened to be my boyfriend's brother. He received a Facebook message from some guy who worked with his girlfriend whom they have a kid with. It said that she had been carrying on an affair with some other guy they mutually worked with. However, I think that this was a fake account by that guy to break them up so he could swoop in. Anyway, she denied. They moved on. Trust issues aplenty by this point, and things went downhill. Recently, she and him broke up with her telling him that she had been having an affair with a completely different guy for the last few months, 3 months after the original email was sent. I don't know if it's the same guy or a new guy. Either way, she proved to herself to be a completely terrible person and a total coward homewrecker. My point is, either way, even though you did nothing, the trust has been fractured. It will be difficult to repair it, and this situation will exacerbate his jealousy and insecurities to a point where you might not want to stay. However, I hope and am sure that you won't leave the relationship in a similar manner to my sister-in-law. That was pretty shady from someone who claimed innocence for the last year or so. This person says, I'd simply look Paul in the eye and ask, do you think so lowly of me that you won't even consider the possibility that this wasn't true? Wait for him to answer, and I suspect he won't be able to. To be honest, I'm not sure I'd be able to forgive him for this behavior. He dropped you like a bad habit the second he was tested. What happens in the future when you have a house and kids and everything and life isn't easy? Will he have the fortitude to work towards the future with you? Or will he turn tail and run? This is pretty indicative of his true character if you ask me. Paul would probably love to believe that none of this is true. Not many people actually want to believe that they've been betrayed by someone they love. But look at it from his standpoint, and this is no easy ask for two main reasons: his previous cheating partner issues and OP's actions. Remember that this supposedly platonic friend, as he's been constantly portrayed to him from the time they started dating, isn't one. He declared his love for OP back then, something that for whatever reason she didn't think worth mentioning to him, and continued this friendship including one-on-one encounters. When Paul had his trust issues flare up to the point that he's asked to see her messages, one of the two instances just happened to be in regards to Roger, who even in this specific request for information is again described as being a platonic male friend. He accepts this, and the relationship, including one-on-one encounters, continues. Now that Roger has told him of the true state of things, that he has been in love with OP this whole time, what's OP got to say other than confirm that she's been lying by omission about this, which would look extremely shady given the circumstances, as they've now unfolded, or go with, sure, he told me all this, but I didn't believe it, so it's all okay that I continued a relationship with him and come across as clueless as best. This person says, I think that part of this issue is born of the fact that you have a boyfriend with trust issues and a good friend who professed love and was turned down. Personally, I feel like if there's unrequited love, you have a duty to care for both your relationship and your friend, to distance yourself. Staying nearby just exacerbated the problem and ultimately ruined your relationship. Now for the update. I want to thank everyone so much for commenting. Before I post what happened, I just want to address a few things that I didn't get to in the first post. First, Paul knew I was having coffee with Roger. It wasn't some kind of secret thing. Paul has female friends he has lunch or coffee with alone too. So this isn't unusual in our relationship. Second, Paul did not know that Roger had said that he loved me 5 years ago. I definitely made a mistake not telling him that, but honestly, it was so long ago, and to my obviously wrong knowledge was old history. We did not extensively discuss our past, so there wasn't really a natural point where it would have come up, and it just never occurred to me to say anything. Finally, Roger and I did not have a particularly intense friendship. It's not like we were texting constantly or best buddies. We hung out occasionally and would be in touch if something relevant came up, but we didn't just chat randomly. Anyway, with that being said, I took the advice of some Redditors, and when I was a little calmer, I Facebook messaged Roger asking him why he lied. He responded with, "What do you mean?" At which point I started pressing him harder. He responded only with one-word answers and honestly didn't reply to the most of my messages at all, so no matter how much I asked, and never actually said any definitive statement of yes, I lied for such and such reason. Finally, I sent him a definitive statement that said I had never had an affair with him, that I was incredibly hurt and angry that our friendship was over, and that he was never to contact me again. He replied okay, and that was that. I sent the entire Facebook conversation to Paul, not thinking it would help save us, but just try and clear my name. In the message, I asked him if Roger's reactions to my questions and my response to Roger was in line with what he would expect if Roger's accusations were true. Paul didn't respond that day, but the next day he called me. Paul basically said that the more he thought about it, the more he believed me, and that the conversation between Roger and I helped him believe that Roger's responses didn't make sense, and that he now thought nothing had gone on. However, he said despite that, the trust was broken between us, and he couldn't be with me. I got pretty mad and yelled at him, asking why I was being punished for nothing, and he just basically disengaged from the discussion. Not my finest moment, I know, but I was just so overwhelmed with frustration. We did eventually end the conversation calmly, if not amiably, and he is dropping off the stuff that I left at his apartment later this week. I learned my lesson. Not only will any declaration of interest by a friend end that friendship forever, but I will never date someone who has trust issues or a history of being cheated on again. I'm sure I come across as a little bitter about this, but honestly, I feel like there was absolutely no point to my fidelity and honesty during those 3 years. I got treated like a cheater whether or not I cheated, and both Paul and I ended up hurt and alone, despite being 100% faithful. Better to end up alone or stick to friends with benefits than end up investing another 3 years in a relationship to have this be the conclusion. Additional comments. Coffee. I can't understand Roger. How does he live with himself? I could never do that to someone. OP. I suspect based on what I know of Roger that he got angry when I rejected him and impulsively sent the message to Paul. He's not usually a psycho, so I'm betting that after a bit he realized how terrible what he had done was, and that is why he avoided me and refused to talk to me when I Facebook messaged him. Why he wouldn't apologize or try to make it right, I have no idea. Not only will any declaration of interest by a friend end that friendship forever, this is just a side note. The main thing is, you're rid of both of these sources of drama, good for you. But I'm a guy who has declared interest in people and then gone on to be good friends after being rejected, as in really just friends. So I'd choose carefully because perhaps you'll write some decent people off if you have a blanket rule. I totally get why you feel that way though. I thought that this would be possible, but honestly I got a ton of comments and still am getting them, saying how ridiculous I was to ever imagine I could continue to have someone in my life who once confessed feelings for me. A lot of people have pointed out that by allowing Roger to be a friend or a part of my life at all was a huge mistake, and frankly, looking at the results, I have to agree. I may write off some decent people, which would be a shame, but this has convinced me that I can't allow anyone in my life that might be holding on or have some point held feelings for me. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that his affair child is not welcome in our home, and if he wants custody, he will have to move out? Plus update. Original post. My husband and I have been married for 9 years. In 2021, we found out that my husband was being sued for child support. Turns out my husband had an affair shortly after we were married. It nearly ended our marriage, but we went to counseling together and I agreed to stay in the marriage with the following provisions. My husband has to get a second job so that his child support payments did not affect our household budget, and that at no point in time would I ever consider having a relationship with his child. If he wanted to pursue one of them, fine, but I have absolutely zero interest in this kid. So my husband has been getting to know his kid over the past couple of years, and recently my husband came to me and informed me that there was some sort of baby mama drama. Apparently, she has to self-surrender in May and is going to be incarcerated for 8 months. My husband told me that he needed to take custody while his affair partner is locked up. Otherwise, the kid would have to go to their grandparents, who basically live on the opposite coast from us. Their kid does not want to have to change schools or be so far away from their friends, dad and mom, and she will be doing her time fairly local to us. So after my husband told me that, I got up and left the house. I went to the grocery store on the corner and grabbed a copy of our area's apartment guide, went back home and handed it to him. He asked if I was serious. I told him I still felt the same way as I did 3 years ago. He said he didn't think that was fair considering the extenuating circumstances. I told him I don't care about the circumstances. His kid is not welcome in my home. If he wanted to take custody, I will grant him an amicable divorce, but I'm not changing my mind. I am not going to take care of some other chick's kid. Edit. For all the people concerned about what a whip cracker I am in making my poor husband work 2 jobs, he has never had a full-time job since we've been together. He works 2 part-time retail jobs that add up to 40 to 50 hours a week. He currently only has supervised visitation with his kid. They see each other once or twice a month for a couple hours with a social worker present. And for those who seem to think that I need to be the one to file for divorce, no, I will not. I am not the one who created this situation. If my husband wants to pursue custody, I have told him I will not fight it. I will grant him an amicable divorce and let him be on his way. However, I'm not going to waste my own time, energy, and money to do so. He is responsible for getting his own ducks in a row for the situation he created. That includes being the one to go through the headache of filing. Now for the update. Update. After posting, my husband and I continued to discuss the situation. I held firm and iterated again I will not live with a child, and if my husband wants to pursue this, he will have to find other housing. We discussed divorce. We discussed temporary separating. We discussed a lot of things. We sat down and had a pretty big financial talk. He is not involved in our financial planning. I showed him the numbers he realistically had to work with. I told my husband the truth that while I love him, I won't lose sleep if we divorce. He has to do what's right for his own happiness and his kid. My husband had a bit of a breakdown over that. There was a lot of crying and him telling me that he loved me and didn't want to lose me. I broke down myself. We had a real good cry together. He asked if we could go back to marriage counseling. So I made the appointment. We went. We discussed the same things above, but with a counselor present. It basically boils down to my husband being very overwhelmed and conflicted about everything. He confessed he didn't really want to be an active parent, but feels like he is supposed to. There's some deep stuff in there about his own family and race tied into that. So that complicated emotions. He is terrified of losing me. He wants to prioritize our marriage. Hearing me say that, I wouldn't lose sleep over divorcing left him shook. Our counselor strongly suggested that my husband get into individual therapy and gave some referrals. My husband has not pursued that. It did become pretty obvious to my husband that he was not in a place mentally or financially where he could take full custody though. So the kid is now in Virginia with maternal grandparents. My husband was actually going to go and visit the kid for their birthday this weekend. I gifted my husband some of my airline miles to buy his plane ticket. I did his laundry last night while he was at work so that he'd have clean stuff to pack. However, my husband dropped the ball on his trip. I had plans for this afternoon that I left early for, so I wasn't home when he was supposed to get up and leave. He stayed up late playing video games last night and overslept. He ended up missing his flight and couldn't afford last-minute tickets on another. He is in a pissy mood and is playing Elder Scrolls, now trying to get his mind off of it. I've got my sister and some friends coming over in a few for a salsa canning party in a bit, so I'm hoping he gets into a good groove with his game because I'm going to have so much margarita. Story 3. I, 28 male, have chased my fiancée, 27 female, all my life. Became a doctor only because she wanted to marry a doctor. Found her cheating. What am I supposed to do? Chased my fiancée all of my life. Tried hard to be successful because she wanted a doctor. She is still cheating. I know that if people are going to see this, they're going to call me a stalker or a simp or whatnot. But it is what it is. I, 28 male, have loved my fiancée, 27 female, since the day that I've known what love is. We met when I was 15 and she was 14. She was beautiful, like someone you'll once see in a mall and remember her even after 10 years. I'm sure everyone has seen such a girl at least once. She was also sweet and fun. She had many issues at her home which affected a lot of her life choices, but you'll never see her in a bad mood. But she was materialistic and she never denied that. She always wanted good things and she accepted it. I liked her for it because she wasn't pretentious or fake. When I first interacted with her, she made it clear that she will only marry a doctor. She also had good reasons and a story for it, and I do acknowledge that. I accepted it. See, I wasn't very good at studies, but not an absolute dumbass either. So I gave it my everything. We live in India, so if you're a middle-class kid, you have to pass a crazy hard competitive exam to get into a good government-run medical school, because frankly, we didn't have enough money to get into a private one. I had to try 2 years after graduating high school to finally get into medical school. All the while, I was stuck at home trying to study, and she was doing a degree in arts after high school. When I was preparing for the entrance, she was just a friend. Not too friendly, but not too distant either. She made it clear it was nothing more than a friendship, though. I also heard about her dating other people, but I didn't care because, in my mind, I always thought of marrying her eventually. I know this sounds creepy, but it is how my mind works. So when I finally got into medical school, she changed. She got more friendly and to me. She broke up with her boyfriend and then we started dating after a while. Medical school is long, so when I was in school, she had already graduated and was teaching in a secondary school, which was not very stable or high paying. But she stuck with me all through the medical school. After I graduated, I joined a hospital. Pretty good pay. Although I had long shifts, the pay was pretty good. During this period, she told her parents about me. Her parents were pretty happy too because in India, everyone wants a doctor's son-in-law. We have been engaged for over a year now. We have been married already, but I'm doing post-graduation in dermatology, which is how I found about her cheating actually. And it's quite hectic to even attend someone else's marriage, let alone be mine. 2 weeks ago, I saw my fiancée had red spots on her body, mostly on her back. I checked everything and I diagnosed it's possibly due to bedbug bites. She panicked, but I told her there's no issues because we'll just clean our houses and it won't happen again. So we checked both of her places. She has rented a house near to her school and I have a hotel room in the hospital premises, which the hospital provides to PG trainees, although I mostly live at her place. We didn't find anything too much, so I told her that I must have diagnosed incorrectly and I told her that we should get her blood tested. She was very hesitant because she is afraid of needles, but I said it's necessary. So I told her to come to the hospital the day after when she gets free from her school. The next day she came to the hospital with her school with a male colleague. I had met him earlier, so I was cordial to him. We got her blood sample to a pathology lab and I started to talk with this colleague of hers. I asked him where does he live and he told me where. That just rang a huge effing bell in my head because you see, in OPD, we see hundreds of patients in a day around the surrounding area. We see many people from the same area having papillary urticaria, which is a fancy way of saying insect bites. The bites can be of any insects or even bed bugs, but that particular area has a swamp area which gets dried out in the summer and the whole area gets papillary urticaria symptoms. It's a common regular thing and everyone in our dermatology department knows it. So I just blurted out, do you have any red swellings on your body or anything? He said, yeah, a little. Just after he said it, he went back on his words and said nothing much though, just like mosquitoes and all. But it had already registered in my mind. After he left, I took my fiancée back home, but I had this feeling that didn't go away. The next day I saw her reports and she had no issues. So I just called her and told her I found no issues. I just took insect bite meds for her and gave her. In 2 to 3 days, she was all right, but I couldn't get this feeling out of me. So one night I checked her phone when she was asleep, and I had never done it my entire life. I found nothing, but I couldn't get through this nagging feeling. The next day, I took a break from my shift and went near her school and followed her when she left. She went straight home. When I saw this, I just scolded myself for being such an a-hole and being so suspicious. But for the next 3 days, I kept doing the same thing. On the third day, I saw her leave with that colleague and I saw them go to his house. Here's where my world shattered. I have loved her all my life. I changed my life for her. She wanted to marry a doctor, so I became a doctor. Didn't she say that she will be with someone who is more successful than her? Then what the hell was she doing with this bum? I have nothing against teachers, but he literally earns in 4 months what I earn in 1. Why the hell did I work this hard? Why the hell did I love her so much? Since that day, I have said nothing to her because I just don't know what to do. I've built my whole life around her. I just keep saying to myself what I didn't have that she had to go to someone else. I know I'm not super handsome, but I'm not that bad looking either. She is way out of my league, I know, but I have worked all my life so that I could be able to be someone that she could remain with. If this is what she wants, why has she stayed with me all these years? You know I have no issues with her ever. She has been the perfect girlfriend. She cares for me, she supports me. I have literally slept on her laps for hours while she sat there stroking my hair. So what is this now? Where did this go wrong that she has to go to be with someone else? What were the last 8 years? I know this is getting quite long, but I have nowhere to go. I don't have many close friends because she was my everything, because my life revolves around her. I can't tell this to my family because I don't want anyone else to find out. What did I do? I know it might be that no one sees this, but what am I supposed to do? That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.